All right, guys. So we're going to get started. Um, First, we're going to present a quick PowerPoint on some of the things to consider when using video to break down mechanics. And then we'll take a look at some videos of some guys that throw pretty hard. Sound good?
If you have questions during the PowerPoint, make sure to just butt in, ask your question. You don't have to wait till the end.
Yeah. So go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So breaking down pitching mechanics. So first thing that's important to discuss is that when using like just one video camera or like an iPhone, there are some limitations that you're going to run into. So some of those are that you only have one angle that you're evaluating the movement from, which can be super helpful, but also is somewhat limited. Another thing that you'll see that's like common on, you'll see it on some like YouTube, biomechanics breakdowns or whatever, something that uses like angles to assign to certain movements. Those can be largely inaccurate and not representative of what's actually going on because it depends on the angle that the camera is at. So this is something from these pictures here from Driveline. They posted an article about this a couple years ago, but basically this is the same exact picture taken from two different camera angles, and you have two wildly different degrees that are being measured here. So just something to consider, that if you see things online that say that they're doing biomechanics breakdowns using degrees and this degree means this, you have to look at that pretty critically because there can be some error there. Okay. Another thing that's pretty common is that there'll be some assumptions that made, like so and so's using his back leg really well. He's activating his glutes and hamstrings, or the front arm is doing this. While that can be probable, you don't necessarily know what muscles are being activated in certain times with certain moves. Again, we can make assumptions on those things, but stating it as fact gets a little bit tricky because it's not actually, you can't actually tell based on a camera what the muscles are doing in the body. Okay. And then Matt, you had a comment or a point on like frame rate and using that to look at stuff too.
Yeah. So when it comes to, I know we show you guys maybe regular video in like 30 frames per second, or we'll show you on the high speed camera. Both are great, but both have their own limitations. Showing a freeze frame of something is just one point in time in the delivery, so it's not maybe telling of what you're actually doing. And then obviously if the camera is only shooting at maybe like 30 frames per second, like a normal iPhone, you're not going to be able to see all those movements like with the arm and maybe some lower body things, whether it's your hips rotating. So there are limitations with that. You just have to make sure to take everything with a grain of salt when it comes to either still shots or what frame rate you're using in video.
Okay. Yep. So now we'll take a look at, we'll talk about the pros of using 2D video. So it is what we primarily use for a lot of these reasons. One, super cheap. Everyone's got a really good camera on their phone. I have an iPhone 7 and, I could shoot in 240 frames per second. That type of technology wasn't available, 5-10 years ago. So that's made this a lot more accessible to everyone. Two, you can pretty quickly provide feedback in terms of like if you're trying to change something on one rep, or one throw, you could see the difference between throw to throw. Um, that's super effective and important. And then generally, like you can make assumptions on what the body's doing, how it's moving, and potentially some of the muscles that are being used or some that aren't being used as effectively. Uh, Again, there are limitations there, but you can have a pretty good idea of what's going on based on a video. Now, quickly, this is some of the stuff that Matt and I have been working on to just categorize what we look for in the delivery. So with this, um, we broke it up into lower body, torso, and then upper body. Um, so the lower body, we want to see what the back leg does, how the hips rotate, what the front leg does, and what your stride looks like. With your torso, we want to see the trunk stack. So the position of the trunk relative to the lower body or the pelvis, specifically at foot strike. Your trunk separation or your hip shoulder separation, right? Typically, we want to see those hips and that pelvis rotated uh, partially at foot plant with the trunk closed. Okay. Then we'll evaluate what the glove arm and the front side are doing, whether you open up really early or using that glove arm really well to help aid in your trunk rotation. Okay. The upper body and specifically the arm, we're looking at the take back phase. So that is the point at which you're taking the ball out of your glove and your arm is swinging up. The other thing we'll look for is shoulder horizontal abduction. This can also be considered like your scap load, but just the ability of you to maintain that position through your stride and into foot plant to effectively generate force to the ball. Another thing we'll look at is shoulder abduction, or just the height of where your arm is as it swings out relative to the rest of your body. So typically you're looking for that elbow to be even with the shoulder when the foot lands. There's some variation there with different guys, but that's generally what you're looking for. And then arm action. So what the arm is actually doing once you land and rotate through and how that's working. Well, there's a lot there, but does anyone have any questions on what we went over so far? No? Cool. All right. Then this is what we'll do next. Stop sharing. So now what we'll do is we're going to take a look at some guys that throw hard and what they do well. I'm going to reshare the screen. So here is Justin Topa. You guys probably know who he is. Up to 99.2 inside, 99.6 in game. So throws pretty hard, mechanically pretty sound. So we're gonna look at some of the things that he does well. So I'm gonna play this through. I'll let it play through once first. You guys take a look. Okay. So as we go back, we'll break this down first with the lower body, and then we'll go torso and upper body. So lower body. As he lifts, slight drift forward, not a ton there, which is fine. You see with his back leg, hinges well here, okay? So we want with that back leg to just provide power and a good base for you to move down the mound. A common thing we see is athletes will try to like push off the mound or hop too early, and that can lead to some negative mechanical things down the road in regard to how your front leg works. So this good like hinge, call it like a deadlift, somewhere between a deadlift and a squat, this hinge position is crucial for setting up the rest of the body as um, you're going down the mound. So keep going forward into foot plant. So what we see here with the lower body, with that back leg again, as he goes to land right before, start to see that back leg is going to start to rotate forward or rotate down and internally rotate. Okay. This is something, the timing of this is crucial to setting up where the hips are when that foot lands. You want your hips to be mostly open at this point, not completely, and the torso closed. So as we keep going, so Topa has a pretty interesting front leg in the sense that he lands on his foot first, which normally, I guess prior to seeing him throw really, really hard, I would have said that that's something that you're not going to go for because it's oftentimes more difficult to brace with that front leg if you land on your toe. Now, Topa throws really, really hard. And that front leg, as he lands, you see that knee does a pretty good job of stabilizing, right? So he doesn't get that lead knee extension or that full lockout that you see with some guys, but he does a good job here of once he's down, that front leg doesn't continue to roll, and it stabilizes really well as he lands. So next part, we'll back it up. So looking at his torso, when that lands, we want to see the hips are open, right? And that torso's closed. So his belly button's basically facing third base. That ability to have that separation is really crucial to creating a stretch in that upper body to deliver force to the ball and rotate really fast. Okay. We see with him that good shoulder horizontal abduction. With guys that lack that, you'll see that that elbow will leak out this way. What that does is it decreases the time that you can apply force to the ball in some ways. So having that arm and keeping that arm back and loaded allows him, as he lays back for a longer period of time. In essence, the longer you can lay back for and apply force to the ball, the harder you're going to throw it. Okay. Next, let's take a look at his glove side, what that's doing. So as he breaks, he keeps his shoulders pretty level. So you don't see like a lot of reaching maybe up here. Some guys will swoop down and up. He stays pretty level. A lot of different ways to get this to accomplish rotating with the glove side, but this is just one way that he does. So as he lands, you see this, he'll rotate through here. That arm will lay back. Glove side continues to rotate as he delivers the ball. Okay. Again, Topa's pretty close to like a model of what you want to do mechanically to throw hard. What are your guys' thoughts on that? What do you guys see? What are some takeaways, maybe things that sound a little weird? Any input?
I have a question.
Go.
He almost comes out like the whole like the pitching's mound. Like his whole feet almost comes off the pitching
Yeah.
mound.
Yep. So let me pull this back up. So something that is really common to hear is don't fall off the mound. If you're falling off the mound, if you fall off to that first base side, you're out of control. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
Throwing is you have to rotate really fast to throw hard. Okay. So if you're doing things to try to keep yourself straight or keep yourself centered on the mound, um, you're probably hurting your ability to rotate fast, right? So we say move fast, rotate fast. You fall off to that third base side or that first base side, that's okay.
Okay.
That's a result. That's a result of sequencing your body properly to execute the move.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Sweet. Let me pull up. Okay. So going back, looking at this in the context of the new eval that Matt and I have pulled up, how we would grade Topa's mechanics, right? Pretty much everything it would grade out as like excellent. Everything is really, really good. The only things that really stand out are that lands on the toe, stride could be maybe a little short, or that knee rolls just a little bit. That would be something that's pretty nitpicky. But again, like if we're looking at his overall mechanics through this this lens and this model, pretty much everything's really good here. That makes sense to you guys? Sweet. Got next. Next, we will take a look at Ryan Dobzhansky, another hard thrower, throws hard. Cardinals. He's another guy that does a lot of stuff really, really good mechanically. Maddie, do you want to take this one? Or want me to roll?
If you want to keep rolling, it's up to you.
All right, I'll keep rolling.
Yeah.
Okay. So, same thing. We'll start at the beginning. As he lifts his leg, he'll drift forward a little bit more than Topa does. Okay. You see with this back leg here, he does a nice job of keeping this strong and hinging back. That back leg rotates and his pelvis rotates as he comes into foot plant. Okay. Front leg, and this is the more traditional thing that you'll see, is that he lands heel to toe. Generally, most guys, when they're blocking and they're doing a good job with their front leg, they're going to land heel to toe. That force is going to come back up through that lead leg, stabilize, let that upper body rip through. Okay. So similar deal here. Hips are opening. Torso, we could see that St. Louis Cardinals logo is facing us. Arms in a good position. Glove arm. Dobbs kind of See that arm kind of swoop down and up as he comes through. His glove arm's a little further away from his body than other guys, but that probably allows him to, when that foot hits, pull it down through and let his arm lay back. Okay, arm's in a good spot. Lays back and rolls through. Something that we did work on this off season with Dobbs is, you see how, so something that we see that's pretty common in guys is they get very extended through their rib cage. So what I mean by that is, if you pinch your elbows back behind you right now, what happens to your scaps and rib cage? Your scaps come in toward your spine, and then your rib cage is going to flare. That will negatively affect your ability to rotate. So if we're putting ourselves in positions early on in the delivery, or earlier in the delivery, where we're extended through our upper back, that's going to hurt us down the road in terms of our ability to generate power. Dobbs does a good job here of not being as extended, but sometimes you'll see guys, especially if those elbows are like way far back, that rib cage will extend, and then it's a lot tougher for them to efficiently rotate through. Okay. Another thing here that I'm seeing now is, so something that I've heard from other guys, and I've heard some guys say they're working on, is where like the back leg is when you release the ball. And if it's like up in the air or something, you're not doing a good job, or you're unstable or something like that. Have any of you guys heard something to that extent? Yes, no, maybe?
No, I've never. I mean, I've never heard anybody focus on that really.
Okay. I mean, I've heard it from a few guys, but you'll see like at ball release, that back leg's up off the ground. That's not something really to worry about. The back leg's more or less done its job by this point. And really anything that happens after that is probably not influencing the move. You guys still with me so far? Any questions? Cool. All right. Got one more pro guy to look at, who also throws super, super hard. Share screen. So this is Tanner Scott. He's reliever with the Orioles. Has thrown, I think highest in game is like 102, 101. Fastball sits like 97, 98. So I'll play it through. Okay. So as he lifts, of the three guys we've looked at, he probably gets the biggest drift, where that hip is counter rotated, butt's almost pointing toward like a right-handed batter's box. But what's similar here is we'll see him get into that good hinged position with his back leg. That does a nice job of rotating down as he goes into landing. Okay. Tanner's front leg, we'll see. He lands, stabilizes really quickly, right? So once his foot comes down, that front knee doesn't do a whole lot more moving forward. But it does stops here. Force is now going back up through his pelvis into his torso, through the arm. So the interesting thing with Tanner, and something we worked on during the off season, to see how his trunk, his torso here is sort of leaning back, and it's a little bit further away from like his front leg as opposed to some of those other guys. So we describe that as like his trunk stack is a little too like rearward or too over his backside when he lands. And how that sort of manifests for him is he talked about sometimes he has trouble like finishing his pitches or getting over that front side. That, from what we sort of worked on over the winter, is less of a result of maybe of his front leg and more of a result of where his trunk is when he lands and when he's going to apply force. So he kind of comes up and through it. But again, some other good. Again, that's a really more or less a minor thing, especially with someone who throws 99 to 100. What you will see once his foot's down, arms in a good spot here, his front side, his glove side is ready to pull. Okay, it's ready to really initiate that rotation. As he's coming through, right, arm lays back, releases, finishes up. I'll play that through one more time for you guys. See, throws hard. Boom, 100. Okay. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Well, I saw like when you said his like torso is kind of like tilted back and like hanging on his backside, like I saw how low his elbow was. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's where the problem of not finishing the pitches came from. Or like a result of the tilt kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it comes back to like, all right, well, is that something you want to change, right? Is that something that makes him throw 99 to 100? And if you change one thing, what are the results of that? But yeah, it was something that we worked on a little bit through some of the plyo drills and during his pens. All right. And last but not least, we're going to take a look at a younger athlete.
Yeah.
What's up, Carter? Carter, we queued you up. We knew you were going to be on this call.
All right.
Oh, why is that all choppy like that?
I guess it's because it's not a slow-mo.
Matt, can you share it on your screen?
Let me see if I can. I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Let me stop.
Yeah, I am not able to screen share.
Here, hold on. Now you can.
I can. Oh wow, I can. Look at that.
I'm the host. I make the rules.
You make the rules. All right, give me 1 second. I can pull it up and.
Carter, you ready for this? You nervous?
Are you nervous, Carter?
No, I'm pretty pumped.
Where is it? Oh, there we go. All right.
What's up with Connor and Aiden Starn like not even sharing their
I know.
camera?
No video. It's there.
What's up with that?
All right. Can we see my screen now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Take
All
us
right,
through,
let's
man.
see if this comes up. Let's see if this will. Is it choppy?
Yeah, it's still choppy.
Yeah.
Why is that? Carter, we'll take care. We'll take care.
That was
Don't worry.
better. That one was better. The one you just went through.
This is better.
Oh no, it cut out again.
Oh no, Carter.
It's as if you like started a video and ended it and like combined them.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Like if you started 2 videos and combined them.
Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that, Matt?
You know what? I guess I wasn't thinking.
Oh god.
At least my mom's in the background. We can see her.
Matt, what I did with these, I dragged them onto my desktop and then opened them in QuickTime. That made it a little
And that-
smoother than playing it through the iCloud.
Dude,
I don't know if that'll
iCloud.
help.
Oh no. All right. Well, let's try that. No, this is. Well, hold on. Oh, there it is. There we go. All right, let's try it one more time. All right. Tell me if this is better.
There you go.
There.
Way better.
We can see.
Yep.
All right. So we'll start with Carter's lower half here. Let's pull that out of the way. All right, so Carter, as he starts to come down the mound, not a lot of a drift with that leg lift. We do see that he stays on that back leg pretty well. Doesn't really hinge a lot, but he doesn't really squat and come towards the camera. But as he starts to come down the mound, that front leg hits right about there. Carter's hips are open. All right, and then as we start to rotate, we're going to see Carter does do a pretty good job with that front leg. It blocks pretty well. Hips get all the way through. All right, so he does a pretty good job on the lower half there. Looking at his torso as he starts to come down the mound, that lead arm is a little low, but he's able to still get it out of the way and rotate there. At foot strike here, he is a little bit open. All right, so you can see his torso starting to open up just a little bit earlier than we'd like. And so it's hard to see obviously with this regular video, but you can see that arm starting to come forward now as we do that. But he does do a good job of getting his torso forward. He doesn't really extend or anything through that rib cage too much. And then if we're looking at the arm there, he gets up. He's in a good position at foot strike with that arm. It's up even with the shoulder, ball facing the camera. He does lose, since he opens up a little bit, you can see that that elbow starts to come towards us a little bit from this camera angle. So he does lose a little bit of horizontal abduction, but he's still, even with that shoulder, and it's still in a decent range where it's not going to hurt him too much. And then the follow through is pretty good. And of course, the pickle socks are good. Any questions about what we see, or any comments? Anything we see in Carter's delivery?
Looking at the guy in it looks really handsome. That's all I have.
Stud.
Yeah.
But yeah, something that like we see is pretty common with younger athletes is that torso opens early, and that likely is just a maturity thing and something that takes a lot of practice and takes a lot of you just learning your body and throwing to get better at creating that separation, that stretch. But overall, Carter, you're stud.
Agreed.
But you knew that already. Did we lose him?
He
I don't know.
might have
No
froze.
comment.
No.
No
He
comment.
might have froze.
Froze.
He went silent.
Carter froze. So guys, that's all we had prepared. Are there any other questions you guys have on mechanics in general, on things to look for or look at or anything like that?
Things you've been told before and not sure about.
Yeah.
Cole,
Not really.
Connor, Aiden.
No, they're ghosts.
Yeah, Gus.
Yeah, what is up with that?
Yeah, Cole.
No video for those guys. But I think that the important thing, guys, is that there are a lot of different ways to throw hard. Everyone throws hard a little bit differently. But there are some similarities and some tendencies in the guys that are really good and really consistent. So those are things that through your plyo care drills and just some cueing and coaching that we try to get you towards, but without being overly technical and overly like you have to do this for every throw or you won't throw hard or you will get hurt. Those types of things, anything that says that if you throw like this or with these mechanical tendencies, you're going to get hurt. There's no research or evidence to back up that something mechanical correlates with injury. So just some food for thought there. All right. Then I'll wrap this up. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out, of course. And we are open to suggestions for future topics to talk about in the coming weeks. All right.
Sounds
See you
good.
guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thanks,
signing
guys.
on.